Hi, everyone, and welcome to our new show. I'm Kenzie Chase.
And I'm Jenny Gable.
This is our brand new show, DMV Confidential. So I think we just kind of wanted to start off, since this is our first episode, kind of going into a little bit about us.
Mm-hmm.
So my name is Kenzie Chase, like you heard me mention earlier, and I'm originally from Austin, Texas. I went to Texas A&M. I have my Aggie ring on, so if there was any Aggies listening, I am one of you. I'm wearing the ring. I moved here with my husband back in April, and I kind of just got into true crime just because I'm so immersed in it in news, and it just really spoke to me, and I really kind of just wanted to dive deeper into some of these cases.
Yeah, and my name's Jenny. I'm from Southern Maryland area. I went to the University of Maryland in College Park, and I started with DC News Now, working as a digital producer a little bit over a year ago. So kind of as you mentioned, I feel like working in news, we hear a lot about these cold cases and crime cases, and I feel like it just kind of piqued my interest to learn a little bit more about how investigators are able to solve some of these cases. So, yeah.
So what is this podcast? Well, we're going to be covering the DMV area. So for those of you guys who don't know, it's DC, Maryland, Virginia, and we're going to be covering stories that occur inside the Beltway, outside the Beltway. Yeah. We might occasionally do sort of a national story that has a lot of coverage, but for the most part, we're going to be keeping it
local.
Pretty local. Yeah, pretty local. And so the story we want to talk to you guys about today is about a murder. It's about a 50-year-old mother who was a hard worker, who was well-loved, and she died too quickly.
Yeah.
So we actually want to start this show by playing a clip from her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll let you guys listen to it first, and then we can talk about it.
It was just like she was beautiful inside and out. She was just respectful and smart and just amazing. It was just like
Yeah, I feel like
yeah, that's a tough watch.
it's just definitely heartbreaking to watch. You know, this is somebody that was clearly loved by her family and in the community, just an overall good person, caring person.
And when you hear that, I mean, it just reminds you, it brings it home for you that this really was like losing she lost her mother.
Yeah.
I think about that for me, and gosh, if I ever lost one of my parents, I would just be so heartbroken, and especially in the way that Leslie Prior
I can't even imagine like something like that happening to a loved one. So it's definitely hard to watch.
Yeah,
and
like she said, I mean, she's beautiful. She was
responsible, caring.
a loved mother. And I just think sometimes in these cases we just really lose that. And so I kind of wanted to start with that emotion and kind of just show what kind of person we're going to be talking about.
I feel like with, as you just mentioned, with true crime, it piques a lot of people's interest, but like sometimes people can really lose the fact that real human beings are impacted and they're not just stories. Like this is somebody's, real life.
Yeah.
So I think kind of, it's important to remember that.
Yeah, and so this actually all started with her just missing work.
Yeah, so it was just a normal Wednesday morning, it appeared, May 2nd, 2001. When Leslie didn't show up for work that day, which is just honestly to think about the fact that that's what kind of raised some red flags for her employer, really just is, again, another testament to the type of person that she was.
Yeah.
Somebody that didn't just not show up for work with no explanation.
She was there when she was supposed to be. She was reliable. They could count on her. I mean, the fact that she didn't show up to work and her employer immediately was
became
concerned.
Worried. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I always say that if something ever happened to me, that it would be my employer that would sort of raise the alarm and sort of be like, she's usually here. Yeah. She's supposed to be here at this time, and she's not, and that's unlike her.
With no call, no text, nothing.
Exactly,
yeah.
And that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah, so she didn't show up for work, and the employer, again, showing how much they cared about Leslie, called her husband, actually, who was out of the loop as well, called her daughter, Lauren, who we just heard from in the video, and the employer even went as far to go to Leslie's house with her husband to check on her.
And that was something that spoke to me too, because it's one thing for an employer to sort of call and be concerned and try to get to the bottom of like maybe she's sick. But when the husband didn't know, when Lauren didn't know, this employer was so concerned that he actually went to the house with the husband to go sort of investigate and see what was wrong.
Yeah.
And they come in and they find just sort of this terrible scene. I mean,
something bad had definitely
they walk
place.
in and it's probably everybody's worst nightmare. They walk in and they see just complete chaos.
Yeah, so they walked into the home and kind of began like calling out for Leslie, and walked in with kind of blood splattered and smeared across the floor. There was a puddle on the floor of water near the door.
Yeah, there was like also like a rug that had been moved. There was a corner table that had been moved. I think it would be easier to say like which room didn't have some sort of evidence around there, because what happened here?
Yeah.
So the husband, I mean, does what any husband would probably do, is he starts trying to investigate. He starts calling hospitals.
Maybe she like injured herself. Maybe
exactly.
like something had happened. She's at the hospital.
Yeah, maybe something happened, an accident. Yeah. So he's calling hospitals, trying to get a hold of them, trying to see if maybe there was some non-notorious reason for why there was all this blood. And sure enough, none of the hospitals have her. Yeah. And so the employer, he calls 911, and they tell him, get out of the house and wait for us to come. And there's different accounts about sort of what happens next. Some say it was police, and some say it was the employer who eventually finds Leslie. But it wasn't until they went upstairs into the master bedroom, into the bathroom, that they ultimately find her.
Yeah. So without getting into too much graphic detail about how Leslie was found, as you mentioned, they found her upstairs in the master bathroom stall. It appeared to investigators almost like someone had tried to kind of wash her clean of the blood.
Yeah, she was wet.
And like clean the scene of the bathroom a little bit to prevent maybe blood from getting more so in the bathroom. So it definitely appeared to them that someone had kind of somehow carried her upstairs and tried to clean up what they had done.
And we're going to go into a little bit more details, but we just want to also put that disclaimer that this is a true crime podcast. So we are going to kind of talk a little bit more about these things, but we just wanted to give you guys that heads up. But yeah, she was found with several cuts. She was found with sort of bruising around her neck that kind of indicated some sort of strangulation or something like that. And she was also found with sort of these V-shaped injuries.
Yes.
Yeah. And police basically described that as possibly being a result of having her head hit against the baseboard in the foyer. And that's kind of what led to those injuries, some of those injuries, at least.
Yeah, so it was definitely kind of apparent to them that some sort of struggle had taken place and suspect had moved her upstairs.
Yeah, they kind of gave a narrative, actually. They kind of gave a narrative that they started, whoever did this, sort of started in the foyer, and then eventually had to carry Leslie up the stairs and put her in the shower, wash her off, run water around her.
Scene.
Yeah, either trying to clean up something or stop bleeding, whatever it was. She was wet when they found her. So now, I mean, gosh, terrible scene.
Horrible.
But now they have to actually look into what happened, what caused this. So they start collecting evidence. They collect her fingernail clippings. They collect DNA samples from all that blood that was all over the house, all those different samples, all those different pieces, trying to sort of paint a picture of what actually happened in this home. And they kind of use this new technology.
So something that I personally found was interesting, because I feel like for the time it seemed pretty advanced to me, and I'd have never heard of it, but they use something called the blue lithocrystal process. And basically what they were able to do is kind of enhance non-visible evidence that you wouldn't be able to see with the naked eye, like blood smears that someone had tried to clean up on the floor or on the door.
It looked like someone had sort of wiped something down, like wiped blood away or something. Yeah. And actually, Jenny, I think I might have seen that used, but only in like true crime shows. Yeah. I don't know that I've actually ever known what that was called.
Hearing it happen like in a real case where they were able to use that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they were able to use that and sort of get more evidence from the scene.
Yeah.
And so now they also have to get DNA samples for comparison purposes only. They got DNA samples from the husband and from Lauren as well, the daughter we heard from earlier.
Which is a very
Yeah.
like standard practice, just to make sure, you know, they were also in the home, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
like to see whose DNA was unknown
Yeah.
in the house. Yeah. So a very standard thing. They had to collect their DNA.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the DNA that they collect from under Leslie's fingernails and from around the house come back to an unknown male.
Yeah.
And investigators don't stop there. I mean, they have this DNA. They're going to try their best to sort of figure out who this person is, but they're also checking dumpsters.
Yeah, like from nearby shopping
Yeah.
centers. Maybe the person who did this had thrown some sort of evidence away that would indicate who they are or what, you know, how exactly this crime took place. But they're really searching everywhere around the neighborhood and in the area to kind of get more details about what happened.
Yeah, so they're doing that, and they're talking to neighbors, and they're trying to get to the bottom of this. They're trying to see if anything sort of raised some alarm bells that morning when this all was happening. And
What's crazy to me kind of is that, you know, according to the police filings that we went through, some of the neighbors that spoke to police said that it just seemed like a normal Wednesday morning. I know that one neighbor told him that she was loading a child into the car around 7:30 that morning when she saw Leslie's husband leave the home and call out goodbye to somebody who she assumed was Leslie inside the
Yeah.
home. And then there was another neighbor who was babysitting outside near the Preer home. They said they didn't hear or see anything unusual.
Yeah, as far as they were aware, this
So-
was a normal day. And by the way, this is in Bethesda,
It's like
Montgomery County.
a nice
Chevy
upscale
Chase.
neighborhood, as you can see from some of the scene video.
Yeah,
we
this is like
have.
a nice area. This isn't something that would normally happen here.
Yeah,
So I'm
definitely
sure
shook
that
up
this
the
was
community.
yeah, I'm sure this was like extremely startling and just
Disturbing for a
yeah,
lot of
I
people.
mean, I couldn't even imagine the area I live, like I can't it's not as upscale as that area, and I still can't imagine something like
Yeah,
that
hearing
happening.
about something horrible like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't imagine what they were thinking and what they were feeling knowing that such a tragedy happened just down the street from them.
Yeah,
I mean,
I can't even imagine.
yeah, exactly. And so then what do they kind of do from here? Well, they kind of start investigating the best that they can. So they know that this DNA belongs to an unknown male.
And kind of going back to that, when I initially heard that, I was like, oh, they don't know who it is, but they have his DNA. But it was actually because his DNA wasn't in the FBI database.
Yeah,
It didn't have a reason
yeah.
to be in the FBI database. Yeah.
Yeah, so whoever this male was, didn't do anything in their past to be uploaded to the FBI database. So that's why they basically have to start from scratch here.
Yeah.
And so they do. They basically interview people and trying to figure out if there was any male in Leslie's life that would have had a reason to harm her,
Yeah.
much less like
Do
kill her.
something
Yeah,
like
did she have
that.
bad blood with anybody? Was there anybody that sort of had a vendetta against her? And police do say that any name that came up during this sort of preliminary investigation, they do say that they tested their DNA.
Yeah.
Which Jenny and I will come back to this
I
because
have questions about
because
that.
we have questions about
Yeah.
this, and you'll see why in later on. But they say that any male that came up during this investigation, they ran their DNA, and so far
Nothing came up. No
nothing
matches.
came up.
Yeah.
And
So
so
at this
then,
point,
yeah, and then
Yeah.
the case goes cold. Okay, so now it's been over 2 decades.
in over 20 years.
Yeah, it's been
And-
over 20 years.
They really haven't had any leads for
Yeah.
who this unknown male might have been that, you know, murdered Leslie.
They reopened the case,
Yeah.
but this time they want to actually try something new. It's 2022, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, September
yeah.
2022, I think.
2022, and it's been decades.
Mm-hmm.
There's new technology that is available, and that's exactly what they try to do to sort of solve this case.
Familial DNA,
Yeah.
which for it to be used in a case like this hadn't been done before in Montgomery County.
Yeah.
You know, DNA testing has come a long way since 2001, but still relatively new in a lot of ways. So through familial DNA, they sent the request from the DNA to the labs in September 2022, and they were able to identify a very, very distant relative, like not a cousin, not a parent, like a very distant relative in Romania.
That was
actually.
crazy to me too, because
Yeah.
it's one thing to sort of tie family in that's like a cousin or a sibling or a parent, you know, something like that, something that's like in sort of your immediate family. But the fact that they were able to sort of tie the suspect's DNA all the way to a distant relative in
And they don't even know who the
Romania?
suspect is yet, but they're
Yeah.
able to say, oh, they are somehow very far down the line related to this person who lives in another country.
I wonder what the actual relation is. When I was thinking about it, I was like, distant, okay. How distant? Like, was it, you know, because it,
Like, how are they related?
yeah, exactly.
But I know that they were able to, from this, you know, using the familial DNA, construct sort of a family tree
Yeah.
that kind of really led them to the breakthrough in this case.
Yes.
And led them to, you know, one surname that raised some alarm bells for them.
So the surname that investigators find from this family tree that raised some alarm bells was the last name Gligor. And this last name is very important because it actually isn't the first time that they heard that name.
Yeah.
They heard that name back in 2002 from a tip. A neighbor,
Just months after the murder had taken place. I think it was like January or something.
a neighbor had sent in this tip to police and said that this guy, Eugene Gligor, might be responsible for
Leslie's death.
Leslie's murder. Yeah.
So in the tip, they kind of mentioned, you know, according to the tip, that his home had been visited by police before but just for things like kind of underage drinking and noise complaints and things like that.
Nothing that would sort of indicate potential
like a
murder. Like
murder.
it wasn't assault charges or anything like that. It was so. But I don't know why they didn't take his DNA, because this is the thing that I wanted to talk about earlier is the fact that police say that they took DNA samples from every male that came up in the investigation. Well, Eugene's name came up in 2002, not that long after. I mean, I know it's 2002, but it was
only like months
Yeah.
after. So, I mean, I guess there could be so many different reasons why. Maybe they didn't have reason to believe that he'd be a suspect, but it's just that is something for me too that left me with questions because they didn't take his DNA.
Yeah,
So-
and again, we don't know why. Maybe they only did that for the first like month of the investigations, but police said that they took it, and then if they really took his DNA back then when his name came up, they would have been able to rule him out one way or the other, rule him out or rule him in.
But he actually had a tie to Leslie's daughter,
Yeah,
Lauren.
according to the same tip. The same tip tied him to Leslie. That's kind of why it raised some red flags for investigators when they reopened this case. Eugene dated Lauren, the daughter that we had heard from earlier in this episode. He dated her years prior.
Yeah, from my understanding, they had known each other like childhood friends, dated, you know, as they were teenagers, but they had been broken up some years before the murder had taken place.
Yeah.
But he was known to Lauren, so that for me was.
But Jenny, they broke up.
Yeah, they had been broken up
for
years.
years.
That's the other part of it that I was like.
It wasn't like they were together when this happened. It wasn't like they had just broken up when this.
Seems
when
to
this
be
murder
like a
happened.
disconnect
It was like
there.
it was like years before the breakup and this incident, and so that's kind of what happened there. We still don't know.
Yeah.
But now they have to sort of try to get Eugene's DNA for comparison purposes, and they come up with sort of, in my opinion, I think a very creative way to sort of get that evidence.
They came up with sort of this ruse to get his DNA without spooking him. And this is the part that I found like particularly fascinating and, you know, smart on the investigators' part. It was June 2024, and according to this Washington Post article, he was flying back from London to Dulles.
Yeah.
And they wanted to collect his DNA without making him suspicious of what they were doing. So they kind of pulled him into this room for like secondary screening.
Yeah, which I don't really think is uncommon. I mean, we go to the airport and TSA performs sort of these random checks, random security checks. So I don't think that that's uncommon. I don't think that
Yeah.
would have raised any alarm bells for me. If
I
that
might
happened
have
to
just
me,
thought like, oh, maybe there's
Yeah.
an issue with something
yeah,
in
or
my
I would have been like, oh,
luggage
this
or-
is just an inconvenience. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that I
Oh,
was a
yeah.
suspect in a murder if
Yeah.
I got pulled aside. So that's basically what they do. They pull him aside and they bring him to sort of a room with water bottles
Mm-hmm.
lined up, and he takes the bait.
Mhm.
I mean, he
Yeah.
takes the bait.
Yeah.
He drinks the water, and police observe him discarding it.
Mm-hmm. And they're able, from that water bottle that he, left out, they're able to kind of collect his DNA from there,
Mm-hmm.
which they hadn't been able to do. And from that, they're able to see that the DNA did match the
Yes.
crime scene.
The DNA matches.
Yeah.
I mean,
All these years
gosh,
later.
all these years later, and they have a final breakthrough in the case through
Yeah.
this use of familiar DNA that
Yeah.
had never been done before.
So not only do they have him kind of linked to this case through the familial DNA, building that family tree, seeing his connection to the distant relative that came up from it, but also from the DNA from the water bottle that they watched him
Yeah.
drink from.
Yeah.
So
Well, so yeah, both of that. And it's also interesting because Eugene himself, I kind of want to talk about because he wasn't actually ever described as being sort of violent. Police say
Yeah.
that he had some run-ins with the law. They were kind of vague about that, but they did say it was nothing that would have like had his DNA previously filed into the FBI system.
Mhm.
But as far as what Lauren said that he was kind.
yeah.
He was
gentle.
He was
like
always good to
caring.
her, caring.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like we had mentioned earlier, childhood friends.
Yeah.
Childhood friends. I mean, she
Yeah.
thought she knew this guy.
And like the neighbor, again, like in the tip, maybe kind of described like some troublemaker behavior,
Yeah.
but nothing on the level of like that this person would be capable of like a horrific murder.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
we know that she ran into him
Oh, yeah.
before he was ever a suspect.
That's the part that really
Oh,
threw me
gosh.
too. I think
Yes.
it was like sometime in 2024. I don't remember exactly, but she described bumping into him a few years prior. So
Yeah.
after the murder had taken place, and it seemed completely normal. Like they had a
he
normal,
was
pleasant
completely
conversation.
normal. Nothing raised any red flags. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy to me too because little did she know he was going to be a suspect in
Yeah.
her mother's case.
And somebody that supposedly took her mother's life, then
Yeah.
like looking her in the eye, like nothing's wrong.
yeah,
That really struck me. Like they didn't really suspect him.
yes, exactly. Well, so they have his DNA. It matches. They arrest him.
Yeah.
I mean, they arrest him and they charge him with first-degree murder
Yeah.
in
So
connection to Leslie Preer's death.
yeah, and they extradited him from D.C. where he was living. And again, according to this Washington Post article, he was just kind of living this normal life in the U Street corridor in D.C.
Yeah.
Like, all these years had passed since this had taken place, and, now he's suddenly arrested and charged with this crime. He did eventually plead guilty to second-degrry murder.
Yeah, which is a
so-
lesser charge, obviously, but it's something. It's
Yeah.
something. I mean, at this point, there was nothing, and then at least
Yeah.
we get this DNA, we get this familiar DNA, we get this, we collect his DNA, then we actually get a plea deal out of it.
Yeah.
And for second-degree murder, remind me, it's 30 years. It's,
Yeah. So he's facing up to 30 years in prison, which was the maximum penalty for second-degree murder when this case happened in 2001.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I actually want to play a clip now from a press conference after we get this plea deal. And you can actually, I want you to look who is standing sort of to the left of the Attorney General.
Look,
Justice.
wonderful. These are look. They're calling out words behind me, and that's how they feel about it. They feel it's justice. It's wonderful that this has happened, and to have this mystery finally solved for them as to who took this wonderful woman from their life. It's important to them. Look,
It's Lauren. Lauren is standing next to him next to the Attorney General.
State's attorney,
Yeah,
right?
State's Attorney.
Yeah.
State's Attorney, excuse me. Yeah. Next to the State's Attorney.
And
As-
after all these years, like
As
able
he
to get
mentions that there's a
closure.
plea deal.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I can't even imagine, because I don't know if we had mentioned this earlier. I don't think so, but people tend to gossip, and they for all these years didn't know who had
Yeah.
done this. So
At one point, they thought
community
it was
talking.
Yeah, at one point they thought it was the husband.
yeah,
that had caused it, and there
There
was
was
no
no-
reason
yeah.
for that. We want to make that very, very, very clear. There was no reason to.
he was not a
Yeah,
suspect
he
in
was
the
not
case,
a suspect.
but
I think with these cases, sometimes it's easy to sort of let your mind wander and try to find sort of a conclusion and
people
get
tend
some
to
sort of
draw
closure.
conclusions
Yeah.
from things when they don't have the answer.
Yeah, get some sort of closure
Yeah.
or something. But it was not him. Eugene Gligor pleaded guilty.
Mhm.
And, well, if you guys are wondering how this ends, the answer is we don't know yet.
Yeah. So he's actually supposed to be scheduled for sentencing August 28th at 9 a.m. And we're going to be following that on air and online at DC
Yeah.
News Now. So
We are going to be watching it closely. So tune in,
mhm.
follow up on us, watch DC News Now, watch our website. We're going to be updating that because we want to know just as much as you do how this all ends.
Yeah.
What is the final conclusion of this?
Because I think it really just,
Justice
again,
has finally been served. I mean,
Yeah.
we heard from the state.
going back to the original interview that we showed in the beginning with Lauren, it
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
just shows after all these years, finally able to get justice for this family and for
Yes.
this mother that was taken in this way.
Yeah.
And, so
I
definitely
can't-
interested in seeing how that plays out.
I
in
can't
court.
imagine how she must have felt. I mean, we heard
Yeah.
her at the beginning, but I can't imagine how she must have felt actually being able to stand up there. I mean, she's so brave for that.
Yeah.
Gosh, I would not.
I when I watched that, I genuinely don't know how she was able to stand up there and keep herself together.
Yeah.
She's a very brave person.
stand up there and listen as he says, and as the state attorney mentions, there's a plea deal. There is finally some justice. And that's even, I think he mentions in the press conference that those are some of the words that they were thinking, justice.
Yeah, justice for Leslie.
So we'll be watching how this all plays out. And I know this was a lot.
yeah.
But if you guys were interested in sort of how we covered this story and you guys want to listen as we dive into more cases, we want you guys to keep watching and tune into more future episodes as we
Yeah.
continue to sort of navigate the DMV area and what goes on here.
Yeah, just covering more cases from around the DMV. So be sure to stay tuned in.
Thanks.